May 27th, 2020, NXT puts on probably one of its best matches ever. Matt Riddle versus Timothy Thatcher in the Fight Pit. This match fucking owned. Now, you would talk about sports-based pro wrestling. This is the epitome of sports-based pro wrestling. This is akin to, well, the rules for anybody who didn't bother to watch the match. You need to go find it. I don't know where you can find it, but you need to go find it. The rules were simple: submissions only, submissions and knockouts only. So there was a 10 count, sort of like a last man standing match inside of a cage. There was no ropes, there was no turnbuckles, there was nothing like that. So it was just a cage around the actual apron of the ring. It was an elevated cage, and it was just two guys grappling. The story goes that because it started with Matt Riddle being a tag team champion. He was tag team champions with Pete Dunne, who is over in the NXT UK, or who is over in the UK when the pandemic happened. Pete Dunne couldn't come back to defend the title, so Pete Dunne sent a partner for Matt Riddle who was similar to himself. So he sent Timothy Thatcher. Timothy Thatcher is this grizzled veteran of the Indies. He's just like an ugly bear-like guy. He's just a real tough guy, and Matt Riddle is just being too silly. Matt Riddle is doing all the newly bros stuff, and he's kicking off his sandals and he's strutting, just being the total douche that Matt Riddle can be. Because Matt Riddle is a legit tough guy, he doesn't have to pretend to be a legit tough guy. This is how he ended up. He just says stuff about guys like Bill Goldberg and stuff like that because, he knows he can just choke them guys out. So Matt Riddle is a lot more loose with his character than he probably should be, knowing his background. But he does the good stoner thing a lot, and it kind of rubs certain people the wrong way, and people think that he should be a lot more serious. And Thatcher, that they kind of used that in the storyline as Thatcher's reasoning for turning on Matt Riddle. Is that Matt Riddle is a goofball. He didn't want to be involved with a goofball. So they had a match a couple of weeks ago. It's a very good match actually, in the empty arena, and Riddle won. Won via pinfall. Thatcher called for a rematch. That's where they came to the Fight Pit. So the Fight Pit itself was fucking fantastic. It was just straight up grappling, hard hitting stuff. There was only two or three major spots in the entire match. One of them was a floating bro from the top of the chamber into the ring, and another one was led to the commercial break, which was the only bad part of the match. Is they actually had to stop it to go to commercial, which fucking sucked. But it made sense in the context of what was taking place here. So what happens is Riddle jumps off the cage, sort of like a disaster kick. Somebody did it in MMA in the UFC. I don't remember. I think it was Showtime Pettis where he jump kicked off the cage and kicked his opponent in the face. So they did that spot, and then Thatcher was bleeding from the mouth, and they started saying like, "Oh yeah, he's losing teeth." And this is another thing. Kurt Angle was the referee, and Kurt Angle being the referee did not factor into the match at all. So it was just cool seeing Kurt Angle there. But Kurt Angle literally didn't really add anything. But Kurt Angle was picking up, Thatcher's teeth out of the ring, and there's blood on his gloves, and there's blood in Thatcher's mouth, and they just went to commercial while the doctors are looking in Thatcher's mouth and all that type of stuff. And it felt to me like they were saying, "Hey, we don't need to show you all this administrative jazz. We'll just come back from commercial and let you know what happened." And so when we came back from commercial, they was already still entangled, punching and jabbing each other and all that type of stuff. But it was really hard hitting. Nothing looked too phony. They did some good exchanges as far as submission holds was concerned. They did a lot of good escapes. It was really dope. Like if you really thought that, if you really liked these types of, you say you wanted a sports-based presentation, that's a sports-based presentation. That shit was bad fucking ass, okay? And I very rarely watch a match and mark the fuck out, but I marked the fuck out. And then the ending came a little quick, okay? But I'm not mad. I liked it. I loved it, actually. It reminded me a lot of the Kurt Angle Samoa Joe sort of submission style match that took place in TNA. I forget what year that was when Samoa Joe finally won the title for the first time, and people was talking about how fantastic that match was and how great it was, and it was probably one of the greatest TNA matches of all time, which it legitimately is. When I finally saw it like 6 years later, but it was legit a fucking awesome match. Even though I think he won by pinfall, but you couldn't have won this match by pinfall. But if you liked the Kurt Angle Samoa Joe MMA style match, and you like the Lions Den, I like the original Lions Den match. I know there was another one after after Shamrock and Owen. I think it was Steve. I think it was Dan Severn and Steve Blackman or something like that. It was something like that. But I like the original one, the Owen Shamrock Lions Den match. If you like those two matches, you would love this shit. And I loved the Lions Den match, and I loved the Kurt Angle Samoa Joe submission MMA style match that they had. This match was badass. Everybody needs to see it. I know a lot of people went out their way to spoil it, especially after Raw. Raw took place May the 25th. Almost immediately after Raw, people started posting that, oh yeah, well, I guess Matt Riddle's going to lose because he's going to be on SmackDown. Blah blah blah. It just happened almost immediately, so it was like people went out of their way to sort of tank the NXT ratings, right? But not like that shit matters anyway. But it was fucking fantastic. Now we have to see, like, Matt Riddle is going to be a star if he's not as silly as he has been. He's going to work on SmackDown. It'll work. He'll make it work. Other people will make it work. He's a star athlete. He can do it. Like Thatcher, I'm kind of worried about because he's another sort of Drew Gulak, very physical stretcher kind of guy. And I'm not so sure like that's what they're going for on NXT right now. I think Thatcher is somewhere near 40. I mean, well, a lot of the top guys in NXT are near 40 because I knew Keith Lee and Finn Balor are also somewhere near 40. But Thatcher could be a great gatekeeper. Like if he was to get like the North American title or something like that, he could be a great gatekeeper. I don't see him as being maybe he could be like a Chris Benoit sort of physical baby face. Well, he's a heel now, but a sort of mauler type of heel. And I've been watching a lot of Mid-South wrestling too. And that's probably why I like this so much, is because this kind of reminded me a lot of some of the stuff that you would see. Like I literally watched the match earlier today. Again, today is May the 27th. That was between the Grappler and Mr. Olympia. And that match was fucking awesome. It was less than 10 minutes. Okay, so you can have great grappling matches that don't last for fucking ever without commercials and all that type of stuff, and tell a good story and tell a great story in it. And this match did it too. This match told a really good story about Thatcher being very fucking serious, and the showing off and the arrogance of Matt Riddle was kind of his downfall in this, because Matt Riddle had him beat a couple of times, but Matt Riddle would do silly things like jumping off the top of the cage or want to do flashy moves and stuff like that. And even though he's a legit fighter, you kind of have to step back a little bit and say, well, Thatcher's a bit more like a machine. Like he's just going to keep going and keep going. He's focused solely on winning, while Riddle was kind of wants to show off a little bit. But it was amazing. Go fucking watch it. I can't give it a high enough grade. Go watch it. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Hit the like, hit subscribe, tell your friends, and I'll talk to you later.